So in relation to Acheron, there's a little Easter egg that you may not have noticed. And I've done a lot of research in order to try and figure out if there's any deeper meaning. Tell me down in the comments if you knew any of this before watching this video. Acheron's unique ability, a top rain leaf hangs oneness, stacks 9 times. You're probably thinking, oh, that's just a number, it means nothing. But what if I told you that her trailer, Your Color, is 9 letters? By this point you're thinking, damn, this guy is crazy. But did you also know that Acheron is the 9th Nihility character to be added to the game? Now it's getting interesting. But it goes way further. Take the new simulator universe. It contains her lore-based planar sphere, World 9. Getting weird now, right? Well, that's not all. Her Chinese name is Huangguan, which is an underworld river known as the Yellow Springs, which is also known as Chiaquan. Chia being Chinese for the number 9. Now what if I also told you that Raiden Mei has 9 letters? I'm starting to sound crazy again, I know, but it's about to get spicy. Because all of that isn't even to mention that the Aeon IX, in which she clearly represents, is Roman numeral for the number 9. In that same vein, I think it might be appropriate to talk about her name. A quick Google search reveals that the Acheron is a river in the Epirus region of northwest Greece, which means rivers must be particularly relevant, because we just discussed how her Chinese name was based on a river, which means the translators purposely made sure that she's still related to a river, even when changing her name. But there's more. In Greek mythology, the Acheron is a river in Hades, which certainly sounds appropriate for her. But that's not all. The Acheron is but one of 5 rivers of the same name, but all go by another name. The River of Woe. Which is interesting because I think woe fits nicely into Acheron's character. What's more is that, well, let me paint you a picture. We have 5 rivers and the word woe, and between the two I managed to find a link. You see, within the Bible, there is a portion titled The Fifth Trumpet, the First Woe. And funnily enough, that portion is part of a larger section called Revelation 9. And that's all very well interesting, but here's where we veer off from the facts and comparisons, and I'll propose a theory. However, first off, I thought it might be worth trying to figure out if there are any other interesting things to know about the number 9. And that's when I remembered something. Acheron is clearly inspired by Devil May Cry, all the way from her Virgil Ultimate to her Dante Devil Trigger, and many more clear links. In DMC, there is a concept of different dimensions of the soul, of which, you guessed it, there are 9. This concept is borrowed from some real-life beliefs present in countries and cultures that I won't get into. At least in Devil May Cry's case, the 9th dimension of the soul is said to hold the mind and memory. Which is interesting because memory seems to be a key factor in the personality and concept of Acheron. Could it be that Acheron is somehow cut off from the 9th dimension of the soul, hence her issue with memory? Or is it much more literal? Because there's another instance where the number 9 has importance. In some cases in the real world, certain people believe that the 9th dimension of the soul is consciousness, and that it defines the ultimate reality, which is said to be an understanding of the world as it is, also known as enlightenment, a concept that the Aeon of Nihility might even naively believe that they have achieved when accounting for their beliefs. Though it's worth noting that enlightenment in real-world practice is actually considered to be anti-nihility. However, that will become quite relevant later in the video. And so moving on with all that in mind, maybe Acheron sees some sort of truth that we don't. Or maybe it's pure fantasy, and she quite literally is connected to a different dimension. Which brings me to mention another instance where the number 9 is important. Within real-life science, there is something known as the Higgs boson particle. And within theoretical physics, for such a particle to work, or even make sense, or even be viable, it's well understood that there would need to be a certain amount of dimensions. That number, you might have guessed, is 9 dimensions. What's more interesting is what the Higgs boson even does. The Higgs boson is a fundamental particle associated with the Higgs field, a field that gives mass to other fundamental particles such as electrons and quarks. Electrons, lightning, I don't know, that might be a stretch, but who cares, I'm just trying to have some fun. And with fun in mind, let's move on to a wild idea. Acheron, with everything I've just said in mind, could be multi-dimensional. Now, hear me out. Before you write me off as crazy, let me have a little fun with this, okay? Maybe this alternative personality is another version of herself from a different dimension, following a different path, and a different destiny. Which might explain why this half continually contradicts the path of nihility. Anti-nihility. Maybe it's her darker half's destiny to destroy Penacony, freeing dreamers back to the ultimate reality, as mentioned before, which could be the reason for the glass shatter effects we often see in her animations. It's possible she sees some sort of truth, and so maybe she's out to destroy the fake reality that Penacony famously promotes. While on the other hand, this half of her could define the complete opposite. Acheron may instead be destined to save Penacony. However, with the multi-dimensional nature of Honkai's previous lore, maybe it's both.
Now I am become death, the destroyer